Hey everyone, and welcome to State of Fear, the show where we peel back the skin of the horror genre and see what's lurking underneath. Today, I'm going to try and answer a question that most of my audience has been faced with at one time or another. Why horror? Usually spoken by disapproving relatives and coworkers in a tone that implies that the questionee may have a collection of severed heads lining his crawl space, it's something we usually brush off pretty quickly. After all, we like what we like, and as long as it's not hurting us or anyone else, what does it matter if we like monsters, madmen, and mutilations more than juvenile equestrians, or whatever the hell else it is that kids are into these days? Still, while it may be an irritating question to be asked, it's a very interesting one to try and answer. I mean, don't most people try desperately to avoid that stuff in the real world? Why then are we so attracted to it on the big screen? Or on the written page? Or the local haunted house for that matter? Shouldn't we avoid all that stuff like the plague? Instead, all you have to do is turn on a TV, head to a theater, or take a look at your bestseller list to see that either horror fans are the most vocal minority on the planet, or everyone likes a good scare now and then. But, while it might be a good question, before we can go about answering it, there's another one that needs to be asked. Why do people want to know? I mean, plenty of people enjoy action movies and dramas, but nobody ever asks them why. Why is it that people seem to think horror fans want to experience what's on the screen in real life any more than action movie fans want to be shot at for real, or than drama fans want to actually experience life-altering tragedy? The truth is, we don't, and that's why we're fans of horror movies. It may sound strange, but it's true. People watch movies to experience things they'd never want to go through in the real world. Because, when you get right down to it, that's what movies are, a way of experiencing danger, drama, and excitement in a completely safe environment. Watching an action movie gives you all the excitement of being in a fight without all the assorted bruises, broken bones, and gunshot wounds normally associated. And watching a tearjerker lets you experience a taste of grief while still knowing that everything's fine the second you step out of the theater. Maybe that's why people have such a hard time getting it. I mean, it's easy to see why someone would want to be excited or would want to connect emotionally with another human being, but it's a lot harder to figure out why someone would want to experience sensations like terror, disgust, and dread, even if it is in a safe environment to do so. So, are people right to ask? Is there something wrong with us for enjoying this stuff? I don't think that's the case. To understand why we like horror, I think we need to go back to what I said about movies being meant to generate emotions. I gave the feeling horror movies inspire a bunch of names earlier, but what they all boil down to is fear. Horror movies exist to cause fear in all of its shapes, flavors, and guises. And while the adrenaline rush we get from a well-executed jump scare, or the suspense of a thrilling set piece plays a part in why people like to be scared, I think the real reason goes a bit deeper than that. Personally, I think that while a good horror movie does get people's blood pumping, and while that is a good feeling, it's actually a sense of relief and, yes, even pride that people get at the end that hooks people, at least initially. I can still remember the feeling I had when I saw classics like Hellraiser, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time. I remember my 16-year-old self squirming on the couch in the basement at 11 at night, desperately wanting to cover my eyes or look away, but needing to know what came next. So I sat there, transfixed, until the end credits began to roll. When I realized it was over, I sat back and took a deep breath. Yeah, I'd been scared shitless, and I'd probably be keeping a close eye on the shadows for the next few days, but I was relieved. I'd been afraid, but I had faced my fears and come out on top. It felt very rewarding, and it was an experience I'd repeat often over the next few years. Like I said, films allow us to enjoy emotions vicariously in a safe environment, and facing something that frightens you can be a very positive experience. That said, that feeling does tend to fade over time, but even as it does, a whole new world opens up. Once you're no longer wrapped up in the experience of a horror movie, you find yourself more and more able to appreciate it as art. Whether that's due to the genius production design, excellent acting, well-expressed social and political themes, or just amazing special effects, you come to appreciate them as an achievement. Hell, some people even become wholly comfortable with their fears and look at even the tiredest, most worn out of boogeymen with the same warmth and affection as an old friend. In fact, you could even say of one of those people that they are how can I put this, fan of fear? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. We're drawn to horror because we want to confront what frightens us, and we stay because, let's face it, once you stop being scared, this shit is really, really awesome. At the end of the day, though, all of this is academic because, why ever we like it, we won't be changing anytime soon. To those who are willing to face their fears, enjoy the awesome shit. To those who aren't, sorry you don't get it, because you probably never will. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Think I'm right? Think I'm full of shit? Let me know in the comments or at my email address. Till next time, I'll see you on State of Fear. Hey everyone, I'm Leslie Rice, the host of Terror Obscura, the show where we look at the best and worst horror has to offer. For those of you who are already familiar with the show, thanks for taking the time to visit my Patreon page. Your love, support, and disturbingly candid nude photographs are what keeps this show going. Seriously, Jerry, you can stop now. But for those of you who aren't, feel free to take a look at one of the episodes linked below. Just a heads up though, they aren't safe for work, so if you do happen to be on the job, get back to those TPS reports or just watch the following. Put simply, Terror Obscura is a comedy review web series that focuses on some of the coolest and crappiest fright flicks in existence. New or old, good or bad, high budget or low, whatever the case, Terror Obscura is here to tell you how this particular cinematic specimen came to be, give it a good verbal slapping around, and then tell you whether it's worth digging up, whether it should be left in a shallow grave, or whether it needs to be killed with fire. From the psychotic and badly filmed ramblings of a basement-dwelling manchild to a somewhat more proficiently shot show picked up by several respectable websites, including Channel Awesome, Terror Obscura has risen from obscurity with the help of a dedicated fan base. And that, boys and girls, is where you come in. Terror Obscura is a labor of love for me. I've wanted to make this show a bigger part of my life for a long time, but I need your help to do it. Long story short, making a half-hour-long episode of Terror Obscura takes time and effort, and while I may have only a nodding acquaintance with reality, I'm still subject to its laws. Truth is, I only make about $20 a month off ad revenue, and, bountiful though that sum may be, in order to keep a roof over my head, I actually have to work around 55 hours a week. And as you can guess, that eats into my video creation time something fierce. Enter Patreon. Essentially, Patreon is a sort of ongoing Kickstarter where fans of a show can become patrons of their favorite creators. For a monthly amount of your choice, you're basically supporting the show by allowing me to spend more time working on it rather than trying to ensure that the next episode isn't published from my new address inside an abandoned cardboard box. Wow, Fear fan, I imagine you saying, that sounds like a great idea, but what's in it for me? Well, apart from the warm, fuzzy feeling you get from donating, which is definitely pride and not at all the drugs that I slipped you in order to make you susceptible to hypnotic suggestion.
Donate. Donate. You want to donate. Donate to me. Donate everything. Give me everything. Donate.
On top of getting more frequent content, individual patrons will get special privileges, like early access to episodes, a monthly newsletter keeping you up to date on my current and future projects, and being immortalized with a special thanks credit in every future episode. And what does that cost, you ask? An arm? A leg? My firstborn? Well, that's the kind of psychotic devotion I like to see from my fans. Luckily, you can have all of that for just $10 a month. And there's even more at the higher donation levels. As for all of those babies and severed limbs, just slip them through the slot after 6 p.m. And for those looking to be a little more altruistic, not only will you be getting rewards for yourself, but every donation you make moves us closer to our milestone goals, which include neat stuff for everyone, like episode commentaries, new equipment to improve the quality of the show, and even some entirely new shows I've wanted to do for a long time. Like I said, folks, this is entirely voluntary. I've always wanted Terror Obscura to be free entertainment, to the point where I've even chosen to forego the mid-roll ads that could potentially double my revenue. But, for those of you who are willing to lend me more than just the brain cells that my show kills, please check out my Patreon page. If there isn't a link below, you can contact me on my Facebook or Twitter page,